But thank you guys for being here for the long-awaited SS4A kickoff. We're ready, yeah, right? How are you? I'm gonna do some quick introductions. I see some faces that I certainly don't know. I think that'd be helpful. But I am Marie Peoples. I am the city manager and really excited to get started on SS4A. And I say get started. I will share, and if you have questions as we go through this process, please ask. We've been doing a lot in the background to get to this point. So while it's like publicly getting started, there's been a lot happening and wheels turning in the background. So let's just do introductions this way.
I'm Clark Coatailing. I'm chair of the Traffic Advisory Commission. I am not a member of the task force, but Eric Toman is one of our members. He's out of town, so we're gonna fill in for each other.
Hello, Rick Gerger with Webster University, do public safety and facilities.
Thank you for being there.
Eric Weimer, newly appointed Assistant Chief of the Police Department. My role is a liaison for the Traffic Advisory Committee. So that's good.
Paul Boz, I'm a member of the Sustainability Commission.
Fran Sudicum, I support the Business District Commissions.
Sinan Alpaslan, Public Works Director. I'm here to also support the project implement, the demonstration.
All of it.
Planning and demonstration.
All of it. Thank you, son. Okay, go ahead. Why not?
Hi, I'm Lydia. So I'm one of the fellowship here for the leadership program and I'm hoping to learn so interesting from the task force. And Rick, I finally see you. We are two of fellowship who are staying in
Oh, you're in
Western
Catalina.
University.
Oh, well,
Yeah, so we are in Catalina. So
you got
thank
the water to work then.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
There was some misinformation about how to turn the water on at the tower, so. Slow functional. That's a pleasure.
Hi all, Sean Finnegan. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for the City Liaison to the Sustainability Commission. And for Safe Streets for All, I'm also facilitating a public affairs role. So, nice to meet you all.
Hi, I'm Teddy. I'm from Laos, one of the fellowship for the YCA program. I'm here with India for 1 month.
Brett Ellis, Fire Chief. I'm here to learn and be a good community member as well as liaison from public safety and fire, and just really learn about the process and see what we can do to see what I can do to contribute to the SPRAY project.
Tammy Boehm, I'm the chair of the Business Development Commission and owner of Maypop, and happy to help any way we can.
I am Matt McLaughlin. I am the newly hired community liaison for the Safe Streets for All program. I have found the bathroom, so that's
We've got water turned on. We've got restrooms.
You wanna know where the soup is?
I know what the
Right.
soup is, so yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm very happy, excited to be here.
We're pleased to have you here. So more on that in a moment. I do not want to forget Gregory Donovan.
I'm Gregory Donovan. I'm the fiscal planning and performance manager for the city of Webster Groves. My hand in the project is the accounting and budgeting piece of it, so which looking forward to having the grant project manager.
Sure.
Help out with that.
Indeed. Well, let's talk about staff just very quickly. And again, as you all know, it's our first kickoff. Any questions that you have, please ask at any time. It doesn't have to fit within a particular spot on the agenda, because I'm sure there's lots of questions. But as Matt shared, he was recently hired, and recently means on Monday. So he's freshly into this. He will be the community task force liaison. That is the specific role. So in the future, he will be leading these meetings. We wanted to keep him longer than 1 week, so therefore he's not doing it today. But and do you want to share just a little bit about your background, because you're perfectly situated for this role, and you're very familiar with Webster, and I know that's important.
Sure. Thanks. I am actually. This is my hometown, so I don't live here anymore. I live in South City, but I grew up here, and my kids grew up here. We raised our kids here, and then downsized. So I'm very familiar with the community, all the streets, all the challenges, seeing all the problems over the years and all the good things and so forth. So very familiar with the community, graduated from high school, went to Webster High School. I have been the last 5 years with the St. Louis County Executive's Office. And there I was doing boards and commissions work. I was the legislative liaison with the county council. So a lot of, program administration, and that type of thing. And also I am a dedicated and committed cyclist. So I rode my bike to work today, so I know all about the challenges of being around Valley Park. So that's why I think that was, part of what motivated me to make this change. So I'm just excited to hopefully lend my knowledge of the community and my passion for what we're doing here to this role.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So there were three roles, new roles to the city that were supported through the SS4. Oh, thank you. Through the SS4 grant. Obviously, this was the primary role, full-time role, which is for 3 years through the grant. The second role is that, which Mr. Donovan mentioned, is the grant project manager. There's a lot of reporting requirements. And as we get into discussing some of the projects that were approved through the grant, this group will have some input and say in how we move forward, but we'll have to let RFPs, we'll need to get consultants and vendors. And so the grant project manager will help lead those things as well and really be the work behind the project. That individual will be starting on Monday. We're incredibly happy to have that person join us, and that is Dr. Tennille Martin. And so she will join you for the next meeting. And then the third position was a part-time position, and that is the role that Sean is in. So as Sean shared, she is here to support SS4A 20 hours per week, and then our other 20 hours per week are with sustainability. She is the region's first sustainability coordinator, and all of that dovetails very nicely into what we hope to accomplish with SS4A. Is there anything else?
No, that was perfect.
Yes. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Now I believe, so we've already called to order, and then public comment. I don't think we have anybody. I suspect in the future, there will be people interested in public comment. So we've already introduced staff, we've introduced task force members. Do any of the task force members want to share anything else in terms of roles? I know several of you mentioned, Mr. Hoteling, that you're sitting in for somebody else.
Yeah, and the Traffic Advisory Commission, along with the Sustainability Commission, have really been interested in the last year of having a complete streets ordinance with the city. And we've sort of drafted a plan, but we don't want to work in silos. So we're really excited about the work that Safe Streets for All will be doing. And we'll be reporting on that work from this task force in our monthly meetings. But we're really interested in anything we can do to help move that process forward, especially in terms of educating the community, maybe on some of these issues. And City Council has given us a grant to develop some educational programs. We want to make sure we do it appropriately, so we're not saying things that we're not doing here. And so yeah.
Trying to get somebody in on the Zoom link. Apologies. Thing you could email. Council member Hassner the Zoom. Thank you.
It should show as a participant, and then you just have to let her in usually.
Yeah, I didn't see her.
Yeah, she's not in there.
She's not in. So
She's on the right link.
back to the presentation. Assistant Chief Wyman. How do I do that?
Click on this.
I want PowerPoint. I don't want that.
So it's,
There we go. Magic.
Looking up.
Quick enough, that'll happen. I like that. Is there anybody else that wanted to share from their particular board, commission, or organization that they're representing? Obviously, we've got Webster University here, which we greatly appreciate that. We've also invited several businesses. I know we've got some BDC representation, greatly appreciate that. A school district was also invited to have a representative from both Hickson and from the high school, and they did select a representative. Unfortunately, they were unable to attend today. So the group will grow and expand, and I suspect will be pretty fluid as perhaps there's other partners, stakeholders identified that should participate. And if you have any suggestions, please let myself or Matt know as we move forward. So, and it's also fair to say that we did invite some groups that declined. And not because they weren't interested, just didn't feel like they had the staffing that they could dedicate, and we're going to pay attention on the periphery and still be involved in that manner. So please know, just because someone's not around the table does not mean that they weren't included and that they still won't participate in some manner. Okay. So next, we just wanted to quickly review the Safe Streets and Roads for All purpose. I want to give credit to Sean. She's put together this great presentation. And I suspect most people are familiar by now with Safe Streets for All. And while there's lots of objectives, and of course, those objectives lead up to goals, but I think it's easiest just to say that the primary purpose is to eliminate roadway fatality. That's what the primary objective is. We'll share. So the grant is through a bipartisan infrastructure allocation. There's about $5 billion in funds. We were pleased to be able to receive the funds that we did. This comes from the U.S. Department of Transportation. So SS4A funds, there's regional, local, and tribal initiatives. And there are some other initiatives across the region. I believe the county has some SS4A funds. I'm not sure how they're rolling them out at this point in time, but there's lots happening. And I think not too long ago, Kirkwood also had an SS4A grant. So the process. We've got lots of fun projects within this, and I think it's important, since not anytime you want to jump in. The projects that have been identified, and we'll go through those, they are all demonstration projects. This allows the city to be able to collect data to see, did the project work? Is it worth investing in the future? What is that return on investment? Did it stop excessive speeds of upspeed? You know, have we gotten motorists to slow down? Were we able to share roadways? We luckily have not had roadway fatalities to the extent that other communities have had. So we'll be looking for other markers for our progress. Please.
Yeah, sure. I was just going to point out that worth noting that the demonstration projects are not permanent necessarily. I mean, these are just pilot projects, so they are implemented so we can gather data and look at the results, and then from those results we can create the safety action plan. And hopefully we would also be applying for another grant that would help fund implementing the strategies that we identify in that safety action plan. So just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page that these demonstration projects are not permanent necessarily.
How were the projects identified? Who did that?
That's a great question. So they are identified through a variety of sources. A lot of them came up through Traffic Advisory Council, resident complaints, valid complaints that have been made through there. Others have been on Public Works radar for quite some time of needing improvements. And I'm sure there's other manners, but we really took those. And we also had to fit them within the grants allowable projects.
As well as the Police Community Engagement Board.
Yes, thank you.
And the Sustainability Commission.
Thank you.
So Sean, if we go through the demonstration phase and identify projects that you want to apply for grants, what if they're similar projects, but they weren't part of that exact demonstration? Is that something that might apply for say it was speed bumps, but we've identified some other streets they might be implemented on, but they weren't part of the demonstration.
I believe so. I don't think our safety action plan is meant to be comprehensive.
Okay, good.
And so the demonstration projects that have been approved thus far are not meant to be, the only items within our safety action plan.
Okay.
Hopefully the safety action plan will encompass those, but possibly we'll learn from some of these demonstration projects that they didn't work as effectively as we thought they would. And so we might need to, pivot in certain areas and make some changes. And there might be other resources that become available that we would choose to implement versus some of the things we thought might work that we've piloted.
And then is the task force responsible for creating the safety action plan? Or is that a staff thing, or is that a combination?
We hope that will be a collaborative effort. We certainly need the task force's help and contribution in writing that. I don't think, but Dr. Peoples, please jump in whenever. I don't think we're looking to assign you, the entire putting the entire onus on the task force to write the safety action plan. But I think we're hoping that it's a collaborative effort between staff and you all.
Please,
May.
yeah.
In addition to that, I had the privilege of attending a lot of the meetings with the Department of Transportation. There's also a consultant piece, so the consultants will contribute to the action plan. And in addition to that, we've said these are the projects that we want to do. If we get, after the consultant comes in, or we get a year in and say, you know what, we want to also, or we want to maybe not do this one, demonstration project, we want to try another one. We can amend our application with the Department of Transportation. So we just have to work with them. It can be amended, and budget money can be reallocated in certain ways in order to do that. So there is flexibility. We're not completely locked in, like we have to do all of these things as we start the process.
That's exactly right. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So, in these 4 arrows here,
Yes.
the grant that's currently been awarded, does that need to cover all 4 of those, or is that for part of them? And then later we apply for additional? How does that work?
So that's a great question. So right now we're at that lighter green, the demonstration and creating the safety action plan. Once we have the safety action plan created, we will be able to apply for implementation grant funds, and that will be our permanent projects. Again, and it's a great question. This is a 3-year project, so none of this is going to happen overnight. It's going to take time to engage the consultants. There's things, walkability studies, bikeability studies. You've got the project list in front of you. It'll take time to get all of that done, to get the data back, and to write the actual action plan. There will be plenty of help for that. I'm sure they went to your question. We certainly are not tasking this group with that, but we do want your input. And I suspect part of the vision for having a full-time liaison in this role was to take the diverse perspectives that not only this group's going to have, but the community's going to have. There are some natural tension points in planning this, and everybody's got great perspectives, but it may be we have a group of community members who don't think we need more parking. We hear from our businesses often that they would like more dedicated parking, ways for their shoppers to get there, as I speak. Miss Sue can smile. And I'm not here to say that's right or wrong, but as we hear from some of our, sustainability commission members, they think we need reduced parking, or, we need to do the things differently. This is one of those things where 2 things might be right and maybe 10 things are right. How do we satisfy all of the needs of community members and desires and really make Webster Groves going into the future and thinking about it? It's not just people sitting around this table today. What does our community look like in 10 to 15 years? So having that facilitator to help with all of this other data, that's going to be in the soup, and I suspect a little bit of hot water. And so how do we?
Here you go.
Yeah.
Again.
Hungry.
So anyway, as you all know, you all are very familiar with Webster and residents, and we're not all on one accord, and that is normal. It's natural. So how are we going to put this plan forth? So we've got 3 years to figure it out. Okay,
The short answer is, it's the first two arrows.
That's right.
What we're doing, so.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, that really does encompass the complete streets,
Mhm.
you know, proposal we put forward. This really takes care of that. Yeah.
Good.
Because that would be in the safety action plan, I would imagine.
Okay, any other thoughts on that? So just a quick slide, reminder of the federal funding amounts and the pilot demonstration activities, which all use innovative technologies, and this has been discussed a little bit already. There is some flexibility within those projects. You know, things have already changed since the time that the grant was submitted and approved. Again, we're a few months behind, but aside from that, there's other projects within the region. We've been notified of some county projects that are coming through. You know, the city's got some culvert replacements. So what does that mean in terms of timing for some of these projects? Or are some of these projects already on the larger radar? MoDOT. Listening to you all are familiar, but Department of Transportation, Missouri side, they have several bridge projects coming. So what does that mean? I think they've got 6 slated for Webster Groves. How does this fit within our timeline? Is there duplicative work in here? So again, this plan will be fluid as we move forward, and we very well may find ourselves requesting new demonstration projects or revisions. Okay. Approved demonstration projects, that's a little small font for my eyes, but in front of you, you should each have a 1-page handout that Sean prepared with the team. It gives a high-level overview of the projects. Give you just a moment to glance at those, and then Sanan, if I could put you on the spot, if you would. And the intent wasn't to get into the weeds heavily on these today, just to really share what the scope of it is as we're moving forward.
Yes, the first project is temporary speed bumps. These are speed actually humps, I think. It could be
They are.
humps too. And so humps and bumps, the difference is one is to slow further traffic further down. The bumps are those, humps are less. So but the aim is to slow traffic down in those areas, chronic areas where the high speeds are problems for our community. And these are temporary applications, like Sean mentioned. A lot of them actually, like Gregory mentioned, also can be relocated throughout the project area, our jurisdiction. And the second project is adaptive signal timing. Adaptive signal timing is currently only proposed on Elm Avenue corridor where we have traffic signals because it relies on the current traffic signal infrastructure that we have to adapt the signals. It's a signal control methodology more than adding more controls into the system. So we currently have Crocombe Avenue, Lockwood Avenue, Swan Avenue, and then down the corridor, the Big Bend Boulevard signals. So this is the adaptive technology or methodology is to revise the signal timing to the different needs of the traffic. And so when we need to flow more traffic through the corridor, we respond to that need. But when it needs to slow down and consider pedestrian movements more, other modes more than it can do that too. This can easily be done with the signal infrastructure that we currently have. And communicates between the signals. We don't currently have interconnects as far as I know, but we will adapt these signals to interconnect meaning the signals will communicate with each other, and that can be done by adding some infrastructure, parts of infrastructure to it. And but again, temporary. It can be removed afterwards. And relocated as well. Number 3 project is adaptive variable speed limit signs. These are speed limit signs that will have different speed limit signs. And so that's for the, again, the needs of the traffic. And that can be like school zones during those times when the students are around. And that's needed. The speed limit can be adjusted. It can be adjusted per the times of the day. Or special events that may be happening around the corridor. That's again temporary and modular. Well, we can install it at different locations. We can move these boxes to different locations also as far as the grant allows for those expenditures. Multi-use pad, actually, I'm currently working on a permanent project to propose that at our next council meeting for this. That's going to be in South Elm Avenue between Glendale and Watson Road intersections. That's a $3 million project that will need to be built over the years. We have a grant for it. That's to build a multi-use path along the corridor, South Elm Avenue corridor, to use in a multimodal way and add a more walkable and bicyclable amenity to that roadway. So this application, the project number 4 here, is temporary, of course, and that's for the Elm Avenue up here, actually from Lockwood to Kirkham, to respond to the need of accommodating additional modes of traffic such as walking pedestrians, bicyclists on the, I believe, the west side of the roadway, do that temporarily. And so temporarily meaning restriping some of the road and installing safety for the pedestrians and cyclists that use it. This could be in the way of some Jersey barriers, some crash-worthy equipment. But then temporary, again, we can reverse it, we can get it out of the way, depending on how it works and whether it works. And the project number 5 is in road warning light systems. You may have seen them around. It's becoming more popular. It's in other metros outside of St. Louis. I've seen them more. Those are embedded lights within the pavement at crosswalks. So they flash at certain frequencies, and they are there to get attention, to draw attention to the pedestrians being on the road, crossing the road, and warning to the motorists for that. These are completed, performed at existing crosswalks, and it's an added feature to those crosswalks. Embedded lights, when we talk about doing that, is it an easy temporary solution? That's still to be explored within the project, I believe, because those need to have some crash worthy, at least the vehicles will be driving over them, and so they cannot be too temporary, but because then we would need to deal with reinstalling them how many times likely. But again, these are all like mobile modular solutions to review the data from and the performance of, and then decide if these are really good implementation choices for our community. Project number 6 is pedestrian hybrid beacons. Those are more popular now. They're here along Manchester Road. You can see them around in our community. There are some of them. These are the pedestrian the signage assembly that is at a crosswalk, but it is illuminated, and it has an on-demand type of illumination to it, so that the pedestrians push a button and then the assembly starts flashing, and it has an enforcement, likely an enforcement aspect to it too. When it's like that, I think the motorists are better encouraged to yield the right of way to the pedestrians. And so this is an application for actually one of the existing crosswalks on Kirkham Avenue right to the north of us here. But well, each one is, all of these are temporary in planning and demonstration projects. I also want to bring to your attention that these are not just buying the equipment and installing it at the location, but there is also a there will likely be an engineering planning aspect to these projects, such as if we are changing traffic flows and movements and timing and such in one corridor, we generally need to look at, traffic engineers generally look at a larger section around that area to make sure that the other movements around in the grid of the roadway are not adversely impacted, or if they are, what are the measures to take to mitigate those impacts. So that will go hand in hand with our implementation of these demonstration projects. I hesitate to use the implementation term. I know the implementation is coming up later, but what we call implementation in the public works world is to pretty much install the equipment and make it work. So that's what I mean, but they're all really planning and demonstration projects.
Thank you so much. I appreciate giving that high level overview. Questions, thoughts, concerns?
I have one question. So the traffic bumps, are those like tables where if you hit it at a certain speed, it?
Right. Oh, they are not they are, there is a ramp up, a flat area and ramp down front.
So if you're going the speed limit, you should be able to go over the table without
Right,
significant,
right.
being able to notice it.
Yeah, and emergency vehicles.
That's my
should
next
not,
question.
Right, it should not impede emergency movements, at least, they are designed not to.
Okay.
But our snow plows, we need to make sure we don't pick them all up in the winter times.
And those were some of the concerns voiced when we were looking at other communities that had the speed humps. And so we inquired with some other communities and we got a mixed bag. Some communities loved it. Their emergency vehicles. I'm looking at the fire chief. I'm sure you'll want to get in here in just a second. Some of the communities said it worked just fine for them. They hadn't had concerns, and other communities, no, they ended up taking them out. So don't know what it will mean for Webster. Go ahead, chief.
No, just a couple questions.
I saw it over your face.
Especially with the phenomenally diverse group here of background. So one question is for each project,
Yes, sir.
what is our communication plan to the community members for the educated piece for the behavioral shift? Specifically, because some of these are, maybe all of them, but like specifically for like my kid who walks the city constantly, one of them, and looks down at his phone with his friends. Like I see the great benefit here of safety. But how are we educating our community? What's that communication plan look like? Are we developing that?
So that is an excellent question as I kind of look over at Sean. So she has the public affairs aspect of this. And so we'll need to incorporate all of that into it. And what are those important messaging components? So I suspect, as we take notes, that should be an agenda item for each of the task force meetings.
Certainly that's the communication rollout has not been planned yet. So, my hope with Matt is that we can, put that on the agenda, for this task force to talk through and get input from you all on how we should tackle that together.
Yeah.
And then, I'll work on it.
It's a really important piece. Thank you for bringing that up. Because other than just informing drivers and bicyclists, there are walkers who may be looking at their phones. And how do we help
I know.
educate everyone?
I'm sure constantly.
I can't promise we're going to be able to stop all teenager type walking
Sure.
accidents, but we're going to give it a whirl. So that's important.
And we also think that our community likes to know in advance
Absolutely.
of what's going on.
That way we are anticipating behavioral shifts. We've at least done our part to education. So, which is
And Chief, there are, for everybody, there are funds within the grant for education, community activities. For instance, buying bike locks and helmets for the kids, or doing a poster project at the grade schools around what center streets mean, things like that. So there are components built into the grant that we're taking into consideration.
But yeah, it's a really important question to get up front on. just the bike lane on Lockwood
Mhm.
that was added, which was planned 10 years ago.
Mhm.
You know, which, and I walk there every day. It's so nice, even though they're not protected bike lanes, which is really what today they would prefer. But there was some people who were like, we're taxpayers, we paid for those 4 lanes. Yeah, we don't need 4 lanes of traffic on Lockwood. But that kind of education is really important.
I have a biker question. I don't know the physique of a biker, not that I couldn't be, but, so when you're cruising on your bike, you're coming up to a stop sign. And I see people just stick their arm out and keep going on bike, like they don't stop, they don't ever.
Yeah.
How does that work? I mean, I'm just curious from
Well-
a safety standpoint.
What I always say is that there's stupid people.
You can say this, I'm not.
There are stupid people that ride bikes. What you're looking at is stupid people that are doing a stupid thing. And so we can't control all that, and the people that are responsible don't do that. But from the standpoint of being on a bike and you approach a stop sign, the difference is that the laws were not created for cyclists, but they can see, you know, much wider than people in the car can. And so that's the tendency of riding, and they can see that it's clear, or they can see that they have time to slip through and they just do it. Mentality is that you are going to anger everybody. Even if it's safe for you, because you can see, you're going to anger everybody. But yeah, I think, am I answering your question?
Yeah, I was just curious what your biker is supposed to do.
Yeah, we were supposed to stop, or you're supposed, I mean, not necessarily. Again, the law isn't really written for cyclists for the most part, but you're supposed to stop. But for example, let's say you had 10 people riding, you don't want one person to stop. Sure. Next person. I mean, so the drivers don't necessarily want what they think they want, because cyclists have the ability to intelligently keep traffic moving at the same time. So, minimal stops are usually better for traffic and for safety than a completely stopping like you would in a car. So, that's the responsible way to ride.
Yeah, thanks for that clarity. I've always been curious.
But you also see people don't do that, right? They just go, and it's just not great.
I have never in a meeting been able to say there are stupid people.
No. I feel, I get this all the time from people.
Before we go to you, did I skip over? There was a question over here for comment.
I just had a comment on this project 1 on the speed hump. It looks like you've already designed on the Elm piece that you're going to put speed bumps on Gore and Maple to try and presumably limit everyone just using those streets spillover. Yeah.
I was just wondering if there's like a penciled in kind of outline or calendar of like when these would start to be.
I was just gonna touch on
Okay.
that, actually. Regarding the communications plan, we'll be able to build that out more once we have the timeline firmed up, but in order to do that, first we have to look at these demonstration projects and determine which ones can be done in-house, if any, and which ones will be outsourced. And the projects, which I think the majority of them would probably end up being outsourced, if not what you think. And so the timing will depend on when we can execute those purchase orders, those installations with contractors. So that's a big piece that we're working on internally right now. That's we hope to have updates and the timeline soon.
And even before that, we have to get clearance for environmental sign off. Shouldn't be any issue, but there's an environmental review that has to be conducted. When the Department of Transportation will say, okay, now we can start. It's not that we can't run those things concurrently, like get everything up and lined up, but or we could even start the environmental process.
So did they provide the grant, at least a template of measurable outcomes for data sets to know when do we move from something that's considered demonstration to permanent? Like, how are we tracking that data? As it's a flexible grant, because we can change it on the fly, but how are we measuring this? So,
It's a great question. So there are deliverables that we have in a grant agreements, and I won't go through all of those, where they are measured, and that's also where the grants manager, who's joining us on Monday, will come into play. But some of those measures, and I won't go through all of them, safety and performance, obviously. Equity, there's also a large Justice 40 component of this. So for those of you not familiar with Justice 40, it's how are we connecting all communities and making sure that there's equity and that we're not just, sinking all of the dollars in one place. So there are quite a few built-in measurables. A lot of it's just going to be looking at speeds, counting the number of motorists cyclists through various roadways. But some of it, as I look both at Sean and Matt, as we schedule the next meeting, we will be bringing back a lot of this. Hopefully we'll have a better timeline in place. So go over some of the projects as well as some of what the measurables and deliverables are. Yes, sir.
So Sanaa and I have been talking with a vendor
Mhm.
that does just that. They have measurables for. It's pretty impressive what they can do, and that can also be written into the grant. So I don't know what the future plan is for that, but that's also.
Thank you for sharing that. Ideally, we could have some dashboards. And so one of our goals, and I'm gonna share Sean's thunder, but that there will be a site just for this project on the city's webpage, and whether it's standalone and connects or embedded, I'm not sure yet, but a dashboard for those measurables. So anybody can go look and say, okay, this is the demonstration project. This is where they're at. These are the outcomes. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's really important because if the ultimate goal is 0 deaths and we don't have any now, what are we really measuring? Because there are some predictive things out there that can say, hey, this is unsafe. You're just, and someone who walks 8 to 12 miles in Webster every day, I know where there's some very unsafe areas as a pedestrian, but there haven't been any deaths. So or do we want to keep crossing our fingers? So
It's a high bar.
yeah.
If we lower that to how many accidents and
well,
injuries.
so I think that's a
Exactly.
great point of just a low hanging fruit quantitative data is these intersections or areas. I mean, I can run data, see what the incidents we even occurred there. Then we can look at the trending to see once these measures are in place. Is it staying the same? Is it going down?
But you also
Is
have
it increasing?
sorry, I have to factor in too, like, I think some of the intersections, people deliberately don't walk there because they know they're
Correct.
dangerous. So you don't have a good sort of data set to start with.
Exactly.
True.
Like the multi-use path coming up Elm, I mean, hardly anyone walks there because there isn't a way to do it, right?
Yeah.
But you might be able to measure like, speed there, speed decline. Maybe you can measure. Somehow we can measure the number of people now using the report before, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
now who's now walking there? I mean, you would walk there if there was a safe space, so be able to hopefully be able to shoot.
We could also create, a public surveys throughout this process and
Right.
see how the community is responding to each of these projects and get some data that way as well.
Not to keep up with it. So one of the companies that I've been speaking to can go back and pull historical data on speeds as well as traffic flow.
That's great.
So you can use those as a comparison. I mean, it's not cheap, but it's an option.
Excellent.
And so now, I think one of the concerns, I think some of the members of our commission might have, because we've looked at Elm really from Big Bend all the way to Kirkham in different phases and different little chunks. And the overall feeling, I think, of our commission is how do we slow that traffic down? And this variable lights seems like it's speeding it up to get people to speed through there faster when there's more traffic. And I think that's going to be one of those things that might butt up against each other because the residents said we need to slow that down and have maybe even a road diet on how do we slow that down. But some of this looks like how do we make it more efficient, get people through. And when you make it more efficient, people go faster.
But Clark, isn't it both the way? Like it's like you want, because the trade-off is that if there's too much slowdown, then you have this other problem where everyone goes on Maple and Gore and Gray, and then you have some traffic all over the place. And so somehow you have to slow people down, but keep them moving enough so that
Right.
they're still getting through. And I think that's, to me, in my mind, that's really
On a
a
major-
major challenge for this project, I know.
A lot of this is behavior change. And how do we educate, to your point, the behavior change? And that's not that anybody likes getting a ticket, but that's also where enforcement comes into play.
Common topic of debate and traffic advisory committee.
Enforcement,
Just enforcement, the effectiveness of it. If we do that, does it displace it to other issues, exact things you were saying.
mhm,
I would think aside from some of the great events we have in the city, music and such, that 3 to 15 to 4:15 hour is critical because that's not foot traffic of the junior and high school is everywhere.
sure.
And I hold my breath at Big Bend and Elm.
Yeah.
And under the freeway, it's.
They're doing a project there as well. Rest of the county.
County is doing a project there.
It's good to know.
And that's kind of why I wish school district could. Because they want a piece on that as well.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I also don't want to cut discussion short. This is incredibly helpful. as we look at setting the agenda for the next meeting. Some roles of this task force, again, we're going to have an organizational perspective from all the various city staff here. But we need you all's help with the community collective vision. You all are in many ways are the champions of what we're doing, helping us as we develop our communication plans, but sharing the information out and bringing information back. Please share with us if we're missing areas, if there's a group of folks we need to talk to, if someone should be invited, if we do need to launch a survey, we want to make sure that we're getting all of that feedback. And then probably the hardest part of this meeting is when and how often do you all want to meet? I would suggest that it be no more than monthly, at least initially, maybe if we get cooking on some projects. Again, that will be spearheading your future meetings, but I also want to be respectful of you all's time. So monthly is not ideal. Is it bi-monthly? Just how often do you want to meet? And we will be continuing working in the background. The work will not just be when we meet.
My suggestion would be monthly, just until we figure out how things are gonna move forward.
My suggestion is whatever my boss tells me to do. I'll be here.
You remember that. And if monthly works, there's just some standing meetings that we listed there and so your PowerPoint to avoid, obviously, in order for staff to participate.
After the EDC meeting, that would be great.
Up to you guys. We will be as flexible as we can, with the exceptions of those that are listed on here. And TAC and Sustainability Commission are on here because they're the two task force that have had so much input on this. So obviously we want to schedule during those times because we need those representatives to be there. We prefer we not schedule during a city council time, but
Does it make sense to piggyback right after a sustainability or traffic advisory one?
if it fits in with you all, it truly is. up to
I'll
you
make
guys.
whatever we need to work.
We sometimes go long, so,
Sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah, Chair.
I get that.
First order of business.
And actually, I'm not on this task force, so I've asked our guy and he didn't get back to me, but he's gonna have to live with it.
Does that have to be decided? Keep in mind.
You know, it doesn't have to be decided today,
How
but
long do your meeting?
sure like to get this on you all's calendars.
We sometimes go like 15 minutes over or so, but we really do. 'Cause
Schedule an hour?
Yeah.
So like 9 o'clock on the fourth Thursday, you'd love, right?
at 9:30 gives us a little time to break apart and
That'd be great.
9:30 on the fourth Thursday.
Hopefully it works for everybody.
It works for me, I mean, if Eric
AM?
can make it.
yes.
Yeah, thank God you said that, because I'm running there, I'm thinking.
Going to the Welllands for that meeting.
I feel like this is Christmas, really? That easy? All right.
9:30, what is it again, 9:30?
Fourth Thursday, like Thanksgiving,
Uh,
you do it on Thanksgiving?
We're scheduled for that one. So we'll send a follow-up to everybody, confirm the time along with the members that couldn't be here today. As I shared, we're gonna work on getting materials on the website. If anybody has an objection to their name or their contact email being posted, please email me separately. We're gonna add phone numbers, but we do want people to know who belongs to the task force. And it's not a big deal not to include your email. I do not suspect there's gonna be a run on emailing you all, but you never know. So I just wanna make sure that's okay. Of course, your participation is public information. So we will get all of that out and start planning for the next meeting. So that makes the next meeting date what?
A month before Thanksgiving.
Fine, fourth, so. Anything else for the good of the cause from staff, people around the table? Yes, sir.
One quick on that role of the task force. So in this safety action plan, it says implementation. Do you think it should say development and implementation?
Maybe. Thank you.
Yeah, I think safety action plan development is right on, absolutely.
Because it's part of this, something that has to happen. Right. And I just want to add that my oldest son is in sort of this business. He's a carless person. Okay. And he works for Missouri for responsible transportation. He was so excited for Webster when we got this grant. He said, Dad, you don't know how few communities got this and how important it is. So I'm just really excited to see Webster moving in this direction.
Thank you.
Fran helped him through his scouting years.
I did.
Well, we're excited as well. Thank
And
you
your
guys
younger
so
son,
much
too.
for being here. Okay. If you have any lingering questions after you leave, please feel free to email any of the staff. Okay, thank you all. Yeah, have a great day.
Thank you. So Chief, were you at the game line? Football
I was not at the game last night.
I was watching somebody, but they were